Good afternoon, students. Can you all hear me?
No.
So we will wait for another few minutes so that others also join.
Okay.
Okay, so can we start? I think another five people are there to join. Since it is 1 hour class, like we can't wait for a long time. So myself, Jancy, will be taking two topics for your therapeutic skills one. So I'll be taking suspension and I'll be taking peripheral joint mobilization. So these two topics needs more of face to face. So maximum we will try to have it face to face. That clear? Uh, so today we will see the just the theoretical aspect of suspension. The next week we will see the practical aspect. So what do you mean by suspension? So any idea? Like it's a general thing. Like what do you mean by suspension or suspending? What is that? So anybody? Please unmute yourself and answer me. So, what do you mean by suspension? Or what do you know about suspension? So obviously, many of us would have been like, would love to be in swing, isn't it? So in our younger ages, we love to be in a swing, isn't it?
Yes, miss.
Okay, see, I would like to, I would like if you are answering me, and if we have a two-way session, it will be good rather than simply talking to a monitor. Okay. So, like we know, like many of us will love to play in a swing, isn't it? So, the same concept only we are using it for our therapeutic purpose. So, swing, if you see, like it will be hanged in a particular fixed point, and it will be having a sling or a seat or something, so that you can sit on that and you will be swinging in the air because of the fixed point. So with the fixed point, you will be just going forward and backward. Okay, so the same concept we are using here for treating a particular person. So suspension means it is suspending a body part in the air, and we'll be able to bring a little bit of movement. Okay, so suspension means you just lift the body part or the whole body itself, leave it in the or support it in the sling, and you will be able to give some movement. So the movement is by the air or by the push or by the fixed point. Okay. So for this suspension, we need certain equipments or we need certain materials to be used. So we need a fixed point, like we need anything like a wooden point or any ceiling or any, like normally swing we will be also doing on a tree, like that tree branches and other things. So that is your fixed point. So we need something, a fixed point on which you will be using a rope. Then that rope will be attached to a sling where you can sit or where you can keep the limb. Then you will be like, you need some hooks for maintaining it. Okay, so you need a fixed point, you need a hook, hook to fix that particular point to the rope. Then we need a sling and a rope. Then we need something called wooden cleat. We need some clips or hooks. So these are the materials needed for suspension. So now we will see what are the we will see what are these materials. So I'll just explain with a simple picture. Then I will show you some videos so that you understand it. So first thing is, like, we need a fixed point. So the fixed point means like this is the fixed point. Okay, so we need a fixed point on on a ceiling or on a cage or something like that. So we will be fixing this fixed point on the particular cage or any ceiling or any material. We will be having a fixed point. Then we need something called S hook. So here if you see in this picture, this is called S hook. Okay, so the fixed point is attached to the S hook. Then you need something called rope. So this rope is normally should be around 1.5 meters. So minimum the rope should be of 1.5 meters. Okay, so then you need something called sling. So this is the sling. Okay, so in this sling only, you will be making the person to hang or like lie down, or you will put the body part like hand, leg, anything like that in the particular sling. So this is called sling. Then you need few of the clips. So this is called dark clip, dog clip. So if you have your pet animal dog, then you will know what is a dog clip, D-O-G, dog clip. Okay. Then this is called your Caribbean clip. Okay. So this is called your Caribbean clip. Then you have something called wooden cleat. So this is the wooden cleat. So this wooden cleat is used to increase or decrease the length of the rope. So if you want to increase the length of the rope, you can increase. If you want to decrease the length of the rope, you can decrease by using this wooden cleat. Then one more thing is there, that is called pulley. So you can also use a pulley. Maybe in biomechanics, you have read about pulley. What are the uses of pulley? So if you want, you can use the pulley also. So I hope you got an idea about the material. So I repeat again, you need a fixed point. So this is the fixed point. Then you need an S hook to attach the fixed point to the rope. So this is the S hook. Then this is the rope. The rope is normally of any material with 1.5 meter long. Then this is called wooden cleat. So the wooden cleat has two holes in that, 2 to 3 holes in that. Okay, this is one type of wooden cleat where you have two holes. This is another type of wooden cleat where you will be having 3 holes in that. Then you have a sling. So this sling is also of various types. Then you have something called hooks or dark clip or Caribbean clip. Then you have a pulley. Okay, so these are the materials that will be that is needed for doing a suspension. Then now, like we can see like what in the rope, what are the different types of rope we will be able to make for doing the suspension. So in the rope, with the rope, we can make a single rope, we can make a double rope, then we can make a pulley rope. Okay, so with a with a rope, we can either make it as a single rope, double rope, or a pulley rope. So single rope means the single rope will be attached to a like attached to a fixed point or attached to a S hook. Then the rope will be inserted through one hole of the wooden cleat. So as I said earlier, you have two types of wooden cleat, the wooden cleat with 2 holes and the wooden cleat with 3 holes. So you will be inserting the rope through one hole. Then the rope will be attached to a dog clip or a Caribbean clip. Then the other end of the rope will be again inserted through the other hole and it is took out. Is that clear? So from one point, the rope is inserted through one hole of the wooden cleat. Then it will be attached to a dog clip or a Caribbean clip. Then the other end of the rope is brought out to the other hole of the wooden cleat and we put a Q knot. Is that clear? So this is single rope. Same wise, the double rope, you can make this double rope with the help of 3 hole wooden cleat. You cannot do it in 2 hole wooden cleat. You can have it only in the 3 hole wooden cleat. So here 3 hole wooden cleat, the rope is attached to the S hook, then it is inserted to one hole of the wooden cleat, then it is attached to a Caribbean clip or a dark clip, then it is taken out through other hole. Okay, so then it is taken out through other hole. Again, this rope is attached to a pulley, then the remaining rope is again inserted to the third hole and you put a Q knot. So this is called double rope. This is also called as a pulley rope. So since you are using a pulley, you can also call it as a pulley rope. Is that clear? So these are the 3 types of ropes you will be using in suspension. One is single rope and double rope and pulley rope. The next is regarding the sling. So as I said, this is called a sling. Sling is a canvas material which will be having two circular hole, or you can say two rings, so that you can attach the rings to a wooden rings to a dark clip or a Caribbean clip. Okay, so this is called as a sling. So this sling is made up of canvas material, which will be easily washable, then which also will be easily like dryable, and it will not get infected easily and all those things. So sometimes you also use a cotton material to make this sling. Okay. So this sling is of various types. One is called a single sling. Single sling means it will be smaller in size. Okay, so depending on the width of the sling, you call it a single sling, double sling. Single sling means the width will be very small. You can use it for upper limb and you can use it for lower limb if the person is very thin. Okay, double sling is a very broader sling, which is approximately like 29 centimeter wide. Okay, and this is used for supporting the pelvis and thighs of people who are obese. Okay, so this is double sling. Then you have another sling that is called as three ring sling. So this string is like a is the smallest one. It will be only 3 to 4 centimeter width, but it will be having three rings attached inside. Next is called, like, we have something called head sling. So in head sling, there will be a gap in the middle, okay, for the face. Okay, so you have a gap in the middle for the face. Okay, so so these are the types of slings. Okay, so let me show you a video of the, like, which will be demonstrating your parts of the suspension material. Then we will go to the other. Now here she will be explaining the parts of the suspension. So like, it will be very little bit difficult for you to just imagine. That's why let me show you the video so that you have little bit better understanding.
I'm just going to show you a little bit about slings and suspension apparatus. So part of what you have is you have ropes that are attached to a ceiling or a grid, and then you have slings that go underneath the person's arm or leg to support them so they can perform movements. Now, usually you attach them to the ceiling grid with an S-hook, and then the rope will be put in like that. The rope will have usually a round area or a closed area that will hook onto the S-hook, and then a clip that can attach to the slings. Okay, so the slings can be different sizes, wide or narrow, depending on whether it's a foot or an ankle or a hand that you want to do, but they have clips that will be attached to the hook. The other thing you have to think about is that when you have this, it's really quite long, and if you think of it, that you can change the height of the bed. So this might be too long and you won't be able to lift the person up or lift the limb up. So what you need to do is you need to be able to modify and change how the hook is going to be attached. And the way we do that is through this. By having it slanted like this, it stops itself. By having it even, you can move it up and down. So you can change the height where this is by doing a knot. So if we look at the knot, we want the knot to be easily untied, but we don't want it to slip when it should be holding here. So what we need to do is you loop it and pull it through. This free end is where the slip comes through. Okay, again, loop and pull through. This end, the more you pull it, the tighter it gets. So that's how that end works. Now I'm just going to hook this to the grid and allow you to see how it sets up. Okay, so I have the rope. You identify where you're going to center it on a joint or something. You bring the wooden, or in some cases not here, but in some places they have metal clips. And so you bring it down close to where the hook is, over the center of your axis of movement. You tie that knot that I told you about. And then what you can do is you can now move this up and out of the way. So if I was attaching this to a person, I would hook it around and then hook to that, and then I could take the weight of the limb with this and the sling. Okay, so I go up as high as I need to get and have the limb just off the bed or off the mat, and then you just close it like this so it holds it tight. When you lower, you open it, bring it down, and then release the patient.
Okay, so did you understand? Anyone wants to see this again?
Yes, can repeat again.
Want to see it again?
Yes, miss.
Okay, so before seeing the video, let me just explain. See, if you see this, these are the slings of different sizes. Okay, so like this will be single, this will be double, and the one which she showed was also a double one. And this is the S hook. Okay, and this, the upper part, you see some grids here. So this is your suspension. In our department, if you see, if you had been to lab 1, you will be seeing 2 cages. So that cage is called a suspension cage. Okay, I hope you would have seen 2 cages in the lab 1. So that is your suspension cage. So here, just to reduce the space, they have made it as a smaller grid. So this is your suspension cage. Then here you have the rope. This is your S hook. You have a rope, and this is your wooden cleat. So they also have only two holes in the wooden cleat. So this is your dark clip. Okay, so these are the parts. So just have a look once again. So don't worry, maximum we will be having face-to-face class next week to see the suspension. Okay.
I'm just going to show you a little bit about slings and suspension apparatus. So part of what you have is you have ropes that are attached to a ceiling or a grid, and then you have slings that go underneath the person's arm or leg to support them so they can perform movements. Now, usually you attach them to the ceiling grid with an S-hook, and then the rope will be put in like that. The rope will have usually a round area or a closed area that will hook onto the S-hook, and then a clip that can attach to the slings. Okay, so the slings can be different sizes, wide or narrow, depending on whether it's a foot or an ankle or a hand that you want to do. But they have clips that will be attached to the hook. The other thing you have to think about is that when you have this, it's really quite long, and if you think of it, that you can change the height of the bed. So this might be too long and you won't be able to lift the person up or lift the limb up. So what you need to do is you need to be able to modify and change how the hook is going to be attached. And the way we do that is through this. By having it slanted like this, it stops itself. By having it even, you can move it up and down. So you can change the height where this is by doing a knot. So if we look at the knot, we want the knot to be easily untied, but we don't want it to slip when it should be holding here. So what we need to do is you loop it.
So this knot is called as Q knot. Okay, this knot is called as Q knot.
It to slip when it should be holding here. So what we need to do is you loop it and pull it through. This free end is where the slip comes through. Okay, again, loop and pull through. This end, the more you pull it, the tighter it gets. So that's how that end works. Now I'm just going to hook this to the grid and allow you to see how it sets up. Okay, so I have the rope. You identify where you're going to center it on a joint or something. You bring the wooden, or in some cases not here, but in some places they have metal clips. And so you bring it down close to where the hook is, over the center of your axis of movement. You tie that knot that I told you about. And then what you can do is you can now move this up and out of the way. So if I was attaching this to a person, I would hook it around and then hook to that, and then I could take the weight of the limb with this and the sling. Okay, so I go up as high as I need to get and have the limb just off the bed or off the mat, and then you just close it like this so it holds it tight. When you lower, you open it, bring it down, and then release the patient.
Okay, so that's about the materials that will be used for suspension. So as many of you are not able to hear the class, if many are not able to log in, then okay, so I will talk and I'll explain, then I'll upload the recordings in the LMS. Then during the practical class, we can discuss again. Okay. So next is like, what are the types of suspension? So in suspension, we have two types. One is axial suspension, other one is called as vertical suspension. Okay, so vertical suspension means the fixed point is just above the center of gravity of the particular body part. Okay, so for example, if you want to suspend your upper limb, in vertical suspension, you will be suspending the body part from the center of gravity. So you will find out what is the center of gravity of that particular body segment. Then you will fix the S hook directly above the center of gravity. Now, how to find out the center of gravity? This you would have learned in your biomechanics in the first chapter. So, preferably if you use a regular surface, or if you have a regular surface, and for regular surface, you will find the center of gravity at the midpoint. For example, for a square, the middle of the square is a vertical suspension. So middle of the square means like if you from the four corners, if you draw lines, the lines will join at a midpoint. So that midpoint is called center of gravity. In case if it is an irregular surface, then the center of gravity will be little bit deviated towards the heaviest part. For example, a baseball bat. So for a baseball bat, you will draw lines from each corners and you will see where the point is meeting. So from that point of meeting, you will move little bit towards the heavier part. Why you are moving little bit towards the heavier part means normally the center of gravity will lie little bit near to the heavier part in irregular surface. Is that clear? So that's why we move like that. So in vertical suspension, the body part will be suspended at the center of the gravity of that particular body. And what is the use of this vertical suspension? So here in vertical suspension, you will not get full movement, or you will not get full range of movement. You will be getting only a pendular movement, or that means small movement. So small, just hanging kind of movement will be there in vertical suspension. So what is the use of this vertical suspension means? We will be using this for uh, reducing the friction. For example, if a person is lying down in bed for a very long time and you want to reduce the pressure sore, or you want to reduce the friction in his body, then you can suspend this body, like this particular person, in air, so that you reduce the friction over a particular point. Okay, so that is the use of this suspension, vertical suspension. So in case of axial suspension, the fixed point will be above the center of the joint. So that means above the center of the joint axis. So in goniometer, you would have read something called joint axis. So for every joint, whenever you measure the goniometer, you will be having something called joint axis, on which you will be keeping the fixed point. I think you would have read that. So that particular, so that point only you will be using as a fixed point. So in axial suspension, the fixed point is just above the center of the joint axis. So when you attach the center of the joint axis and make the body point suspend in air, automatically it will have good movement. So when you want to improve the range of motion, then you will be using this axial suspension. Is that clear? So since you are making the fixed point over the joint axis, the body part or the particular joint will be able to do its full range of movement. Okay. So the use of this vertical axial suspension is to increase the range of motion and to increase the muscle power. Okay, so you to increase the range of motion and to increase the muscle power. So these are the two types of suspensions you will be using. Now, how to modify this axial suspension? So you will be fixing a certain point for axial suspension, and you can do some modification by which you will be able to increase or decrease the muscle strength. So for example, if you are hanging above the elbow joint and you are using it to improve the elbow flexion, then you will be moving it little bit medially or laterally to the joint so that it increases the resistance. So that will increase the resistance and that will help you to increase the muscle strength. Is that clear? Then you can also move the fixed point little bit proximal or distal. This will help you to minimize the movement, minimize the pendular movement. Okay. So now, what are the indications for suspension? So, or in what are the cases you will be able to use this suspension? You can use the suspension in case if the muscle power is 0, 1, 2 and 3. Okay, sorry, not 0, 1, 2 and 3. So you can use the suspension in case if the muscle power is 1, 2 and 3. Is that clear? So for muscle power 1, 2 and 3 only you will be able to use it. Is that clear? Next. So in case if any joint is hypomobile means reduced in range of motion. So a particular joint has very lesser range of motion and you want to increase the range of motion, then also you can use this suspension. Okay, you can also use this suspension in case if you have any muscle spasm. Okay, so you can also use in case if you have any muscle spasm. So these are the three different indications for which you will be able to use the suspension. So you can use suspension when you have muscle power 1, 2, 3. You can use suspension in case if you have reduced range of motion of a particular joint. You can use suspension if you have muscle spasm and to reduce the muscle spasm. So these are the indications of suspension. So what are the contraindications of a suspension? So, okay, let me just tell you. So for every condition, you will be having something called definition of a condition, indication of a condition, contraindication of a condition. Then you will have what is the effects and uses of a condition. Okay, so these and procedure. These are the 5 main things of any technique you are learning in your therapeutic skills. So you have to know what is the definition, indication, contraindication, effects and uses, then the procedure. Is that clear? Now, so what are the contraindications here? So that where you should not use your suspension. So contraindication means where you should not use your suspension. So whenever the joint is having hypermobilization means increased in joint range of motion. So whenever you have anybody who is having increase in the range of motion, very high increase in the range of motion, then you will not be able to do this suspension. Whenever you have any fracture, then you should not give any movement. Okay, so fracture will take some time for healing process. So whenever you have any fracture, then you should not use this suspension. Okay, so these are the 2 contraindications where you should not use your suspension. Now, what is the aim? Aim means effects and uses of suspension. So this suspension will help you to increase the range of motion. This suspension will help you to induce relaxation. This suspension will help you to increase the muscle power. This suspension will help you to increase the movement pattern in re-education. Okay, so these are the 4 aims, or you can say effects and uses of suspension. So what is the use of axial suspension? So here we saw 2 types of suspension. This is overall effects and uses of the suspension. This is only peculiar to axial suspension. Okay. First is you will be able to re-educate the muscle strength. That means whenever the muscle power is less, then you will be able to re-educate the particular muscle strength. then it will be helping you to increase the mobility. That means increase the range of motion. Okay. Then it will also help you to stabilize the proximal joint when you want to stabilize it. Okay. So like when you want to give any rest to a particular joint, then you will be able to do that. If you want to relax the muscle, that is, if you want to, whenever you have muscle spasm and you want to relax the muscle spasm, then also you can do this. Then if you want to counterbalance the effect of gravity, then you will be able to use this. So these are the occasions, or these are the uses you get from the suspension. Now, how to apply this suspension? So you need to collect the materials, whatever you want. Then you have to position the patient in a proper position, check the apparatus, then decide the point of application, then suspend the material and attach the rope. Okay, so this one we will see in practical. So what are the precautions you need to follow in suspension? One is the apparatus and accessories must be tested and adjusted according to the patient weight. For example, when you attach to the rope and when you lift it up, if the rope is not able to bear the weight of the person, suddenly it is giving away, then it may hurt the person. So that's why you need to be very careful when you are giving the suspension. You need to make sure that the ropes and the other equipments are tested properly and it is hanging in the air properly. Okay. Then you need to avoid hyperextension. So whenever your movement is possible, you need to avoid hypertension. Okay, that is very, very important. Then whenever you are lifting the suspension, you need to lift the proximal first, then the distal. So whenever you're lifting the suspension, you need to lift the proximal first, then the distal, then the distal. Okay, then the suspend the limb in a comfortable position. You need to see to that the leg is suspended in a very comfortable position. Okay, not only leg, any part. So these are the precautions. So now let me just put you a video so that you understand a little bit about the suspension. Then in the face-to-face class, I will explain how to do suspension for upper limb and lower limb. Okay.
Hi, now I am going to discuss about how to apply the suspension therapy for various body parts. Now in this video I am going to explain about how to apply for shoulder flexion extension. When the patient has a problem of flexor muscles and extensor muscles of shoulder is weak, so how to apply the suspension. So here with us, Reddy is with me, our friend, my friend is Reddy is with me. He is going to be a model for this video. So now I am going to apply. First we have to take S-hook. So this is a S-hook as I told. So we have to apply in this gap actually. So we have a mesh over here. So in this gap we have to apply it. So after application, so we have to apply this rope inside this hole actually. So then we can able to tie it out with a normal small tie actually. So normal tie you can apply it. So before that we make the patient when we apply for the sideline. So that is a better position for shoulder flexion extension. So we make the patient to lie down in the sideline position, right? Please ready, can you go for sideline? Yeah. So after application, make the patient me, right down close to me. Yeah. So we have to take the point as a greater tuberosity or greater tubercle we take as a point over here. So we are, I'm going to change the S2 somewhat close to the great tuberosity and applying here, for example, and applying here, there is a better point to apply over here. So we apply it safely, very tightly over this knot should be very tightly, should not slow down or loose down when you are doing the suspension, we should not loose down. Then we apply the wooden plug over here. So we take the wooden clad and apply it through this hole, one hole, right? And we take it out. Then we can able to apply to other hole. Before that we have to, as I said before, so before we have to connect with the other one S2 in this end to connect the sling properly. So we apply it over in this. Before we put in this another hole flare, right? So we have to apply like this, right? And after that, what we supposed to do it, right? So we make the point. We supposed to hand out this S2 should be parallel to the greater tubercle, right? So before we apply the patients, so we should check the contraindications and indications. Indication, as I said, shoulder flexor muscles be so muscle power 0 to 1 or 1 to 2 we can able to apply this one. So re-educating, this is a technique is mainly for re-educating the muscle power from 0 to 1 and 1 to 2. Then after application, so we have to hang out, we have to check if the S2 supposed to come parallel to the greater tubercle, right? Yeah, some are parallel, right? Yeah, some are parallel. Looking forward. Yeah, it's a parallel, right? So it's supposed to, this is called axial suspension. What I take as axis, greater tubercle. So this is called axial suspension, right? After we have to connect this body part by use of sling, right? So we make the patient to put it inside. For example, we are supposed to hang out on the elbow. So if you apply above the elbow, above the arm, so while you are doing the movement of flexion extension, the movement will take place in the elbow flexion extension. So we should avoid the elbow flexion movement. So we are applying on the elbow joint itself. Then we can able to connect by use of S-sling. So as we applied before, so we have to apply it on the S-sling, right? So now I am still tightening this, right? Again, hopefully it will come better. So we can able to apply like this. Yeah, hopefully, right? That's better. Yeah. So it should be hanged properly, right? Then we have to apply, right? Yeah. So as he read this, he's telling to me something. So we apply properly. So that is very important, right? We supposed to take a single knot. We over here to apply, right? So we make it like this knot. That's very very important. So this rope should not hang. We should not go here and there on the patient's face, right? So we should lock it properly because of we have given a lot of holes over here. We put it over that hole, right? And we are taking a one more point over here. So one more two over here, one more S-hooks over here. We take this wrist joint to connect with this, right? So we have to apply over here. Okay, so we have to connect with this, right? Yeah. Now we are going to discuss the another one S2 should be connected to connect the wrist part to move the to connect the wrist. So here we are connected one S2 with the another one S2. We should not connect directly to the apparatus. We should connect with the previous access point we have taken. That access hook should be connected to the other one, right? Then we have to apply the rope, right? We are seeing here rope over here, black luster, right? Then we can able to apply over here. Normal single knot, right? So this is completely lengthy, right? Then we have to connect with the another one S2. Can I get a one more S2, please? Friends, thank you. Then one more. So we have to connect like this. Then we have to connect this thing with the another one S2 over here. So yeah, we are getting here. So we got one more S2 over here. So that S2 should be connected over here, right? Yeah, seeing it, right? Then we have to connect this pole to the other one pole. Hopefully, I'm doing it wrong way. So we have to put it in this easy way. Then we have to take the loop, right? Take a little bit because we are going to this, right? And lock this. We use a normal laying on, right? Yeah, like this. Yeah. Okay. And we take a base sling, we have the triple sling. So we have to connect. Regular suspension. For example, if you are changing the point forward, right? That is mobility for flexion and resistance for extension. So when we are changing the point towards that side, that is for extension mobility and strengthening for flexors. So this is the concept of applying the pendulum suspension, right? So hopefully you understand about shoulder flexion. So we can able to see some other videos, we can able to see other body parts and all. Hopefully this video is helpful. Thank you. Subscribe my channel as a physiotherapy channel is available for your further clarification. Thank you.
Okay, so this video is just for your understanding what is suspension and how it is going to, how we are going to do it. Okay, so next class is next week, right? So Monday and Tuesday, I think Ms. Kasma wants to take the class. So I will take Wednesday and Thursday. Okay, so Wednesday we will take 2 hours and Thursday we will take the extra hours, like either 2 to 5 like that. Is that clear? Okay, so I will upload all the slides and the videos and today's recording in LMS. You can try to watch it before next class. Is that clear? So if you have any doubt after going after going through the slides and other thing, then if you have any doubt, you just let me know. Then we will have a discussion again. Is that clear?
Yes, miss.
Okay, thank you all.